Welcome to 30 Minutes with Workroom Tech. I'm Ceil Guglielmo, and along with Susan Woodcock, we'll be bringing you this Workroom Education podcast each month. We'll have links to Susan's blog posts, as well as accompanying videos to help you with your custom window treatment and soft furnishings education. 30 Minutes with Workroom Tech is sponsored by Workroom Tech, and you can learn all about their hands-on classes in Tryon, North Carolina by visiting workroomtech.com. Good morning, Susan. How are you today?
Good morning, Ceil. Doing well today, and I'm happy because we have a guest on the podcast today.
This is a guest that makes me happy too. So we're
Oh,
both
nice. Jennifer White is here, and I can safely say that Jennifer is the expert on shade systems and drapery systems. She's really geeky about it. She's
and admits it.
Yes, and I'm have all these questions that are common questions that our students give us, and questions that we went on the internet and said, anybody have any questions? And so I got some questions from there. And then just with the three of us, we can just have a discussion about specifically about shade systems, not any particular brand,
Right.
just shade systems in general.
Systems.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good topic. So Jennifer, I'm thrilled you're here this morning. I'm always happy to see you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be with you.
It's always our pleasure. But I love sometimes when the questions come up that people are looking to see what's the best, because every once in a while someone say, what's the system I should use? Well, it's the same. The answer to that is often one that Susan says, well, it depends. So I think that the kind of questions that we got for this podcast are really helpful in helping people determine what it is they need, not what do they want to narrow it down to, but what's going to be the best system for them.
Yeah. And what's the easiest system for them?
Yes.
Yeah, so the questions are not in any particular order. I just I think we have 10 or 12 questions, 14
Yes.
questions. And so we're just going to dive in and discuss some shade system topics. So the first question, what system do you use for very small windows like side lights on doors?
That's come up a lot recently.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how wide that side light is. You know, I can do a chain or a crank rod at like 14 inches. I think I might even be able to get down to 12 and a half.
Okay. But that's a pretty small size for what most of us.
Well, and then you can get smaller. You could do a bond or a widget, or bond or widget, or the twin pull. The twin pull, you can pull the stop off, and it can be, what did we say, like 8 inches?
Pretty small
wide.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
Because it's just two things, just end caps, really.
Really?
But you have a projection there. So
right.
You're going to have to let something go.
Right.
With.
Well, and I think a lot of us are looking for the perfect system for whatever situation we're looking at. And sometimes there's some things you just have to say, okay, this is the best we can do if we're going to make it this small.
Yeah. Right.
Other things change as the size changes, but to make something really small. And I have seen a lot of questions about the side lights recently. It feels like front doors are a brand new window treatment opportunity.
Yeah. And it also depends how long they are, like a cordless that has that tape, that flat tape spring might not be a good option if it's really long, because it's going to have to be able to hold all that weight up.
Right.
Be able to stay down. So all those things, there's those variables you didn't want to hear about.
Right. Well, you just mentioned weight.
Yeah.
So how do you weigh a shade for systems with weight limits?
Well, everybody should have a scale, a shipping scale.
Okay.
It can be, there's cheap ones from
Amazon. We bought one. I absolutely love it. And we use it for shipping, but it has a flat base. So you can fold up fabrics and set them on the scale.
Okay.
Very accurate.
They run with a battery, or they can be
plug in.
If you're not making anything really huge, you could use a cooking scale.
Okay.
But yeah, you should have a scale. Everybody should have a scale. My son weighs himself on my shipping scale.
Hopefully he's not trying to ship himself.
No, but like, you know, just put it in the shop.
But you would fold up your fabric, your
Mhm.
linings
Your weight bar.
and your weight bar. You're
Mhm.
not including your head rail system or the board,
Okay.
and weigh that. I have a sort of a general weight that I came to by weighing shades to get an average weight. So every time I make a shade, or I have a lot of shades here at Workroom Tech that aren't board mounted,
Mm-hmm.
like you weigh them, I make a note about what the lining and inner linings are, and then I find out the weight per square foot.
Okay.
So I've done that with blackout line shades, lined and inner line shades, lined only with nap sateen shades, different face fabrics. So I've started keeping this average weight per square foot,
Okay.
and it's 0.26 ounces
Okay. Per square foot.
per square foot.
Okay.
So that in my head, I have this general thing already. Now it'll be different, based on the fabrics and things. It might be a little more, it might be a little less. But for me, that's a great ballpark
Okay.
when I know when I'm thinking about what system to order.
Okay.
I can have that already in my head.
And I can add to that, it depends on what kind of system you're going to use when
Mhm.
you are estimating the weight of your shade. If you're using a tube and torsion spring system, I always like to estimate up. So if my shade weight is like 6.5 pounds, I might estimate that it's 7 pounds because I like
Okay.
having that extra oomph and power.
Okay.
You're using the flat coil tape springs, you want to estimate down. So I might say that's a 5.5 to 6 pound shade.
Okay.
It's a different kind of spring. It works an almost opposite than a torsion spring. So you
Okay.
estimate down. And
Okay.
you're working with that flat tape spring. I like to just imagine that the top part of my shade is never being operated, but that fabric is in the estimate. So that's
Okay.
when I'm taking it off. Right?
Okay.
You're not lifting the top of your shade, it stops there. But
Right.
that weight is in the equation,
Okay.
not a perfect equation.
Okay.
You,
I do think that people get a little hung up on that, like pounds and ounces, and worried if I do this or I do that. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah, and one of the things when I get all these averages for shades, there really isn't a huge amount of difference per square foot from a lined only shade and a lined and inner shade or a blackout line shade. Because
Okay.
people go, I gotta make a shade and it's blackout line and inner line. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so heavy. It's not that much heavy. It adds up on a large shade, right?
Of
But it's
course.
really not that much difference.
if you look at the actual weight of it on those linings, a regular cotton sateen versus a blackout or an inner lining, the blackout and inner lining weigh less than a cotton sateen.
Yeah. So
Really?
yeah. So you'd be
Okay.
surprised.
Yeah,
Okay.
depends what you
And
use.
the face fabric, of course, all
Is the dominant.
yeah.
So get yourself a shipping scale or any other scale, but
Mhm.
do some practices and check to see what the weight of certain things are in your workroom. I think that's a good idea.
So the next question is, what is the biggest shade? We went from the smallest.
Mhm.
Now, what's the
Right.
biggest monster shade you can make, and what system do you use?
Oh boy.
So let's start with, there's the longest, widest, or
Mhm.
heaviest. I
Yeah.
guess all three, huh?
And then how is it going to be powered? Are
Right.
you,
Right.
Right.
I hope you don't want a cordless.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course I do.
So, the biggest shade you can make, well, let's look at if you're using a cord spools.
Mhm.
There's only a certain amount of cord that can wrap around those spools, right?
And each system has its limits on length
On
or
length.
width.
So what would
or
be an
weight.
average length on the cords type spools? 110 inches?
Well, I know on the ones that I work with are probably closer to 130,
130.
125, 130, but it depends on the cord spool. Like the cordless spools are 100 inches, so 90-inch max.
So check
It's
check the system to see what the
Mhm.
maximum length is on that. What about
Mhm.
widest? And then you have to think about joining,
Right.
like shipping and
How
stuff like
much
that.
depth there
Yeah.
is for mounting. You might have to reverse mount.
Right.
I guess I look, you know, like if it's a motor, you're going to want to pick your motor first.
Okay.
This motor can lift this much weight.
But if it's a motor tube, can you splice tubes so you don't have to ship up
Yeah.
a 12-foot wide?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some sizes that have a center support, which also acts as a splice.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And those come in different sizes, and there's adapters and so many variables. The good news is that you don't have to figure that out.
And that's what I was just about to say. Anybody listening, don't panic.
Right. Go to
Because
your
we've got
supplier.
Jennifer.
Yes. Your supplier is going to tell you first, like if it's a motor, how much that motor can lift. And then
Okay.
they're gonna give you the right tube size. If it's a tube system with, you know, you're gonna need this many supports because it's this heavy and it's this long and what else?
Well, longest,
That's-
widest. I mean,
yeah.
I think just thinking about shades in
Mhm.
general, there's no limit
Mm-mm.
to the size shade you can make, but you're going out of a residential type of application into more of a commercial or
Mhm.
like stage curtains,
Mhm.
right? We've all seen giant Austrian shades
Mhm.
on a stage, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So you can do it, but you're sort of stepping away from sort of
Yeah.
residential applications.
Well, like there's some Baco systems with the when you can use the connector, like for a chain or a crank rod, it can be almost 197 inches wide.
Wow.
I want to make a shade that wide? No.
No, I don't.
So
Speaking entirely for myself, no.
What can you do and what
so
should you
maybe
do?
maybe it's not the biggest
Yeah.
the system for the biggest shade you can make. You need to ask yourself as a workroom, what is the biggest shade we can make in our workroom
And transport.
Right.
and transport it and
Yeah.
install
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So I like to keep shades that fit my work table. Now I can
Mhm.
put two work tables together,
Mhm.
but I generally, if the shade is bigger than my work table, it's either going to cost a whole lot more or I'm going to
Mhm.
hire somebody else to do it,
Mhm.
outsource it.
Yeah. It's funny, Susan, early on in my career, I learned the very uncomfortable lesson of making sure I could transport something and getting it in and out of someone's house because I made a 10-foot long cornice board that
Yep.
did not fit in my car.
Nope.
Fortunately, it was being installed in my neighborhood and it wasn't raining.
I just walked it down the road.
I was able to leave my car open and drive 3 blocks with it. But then we got to the house and I was like, this is a really long cornice board.
And it has to go upstairs and around a corner.
Yeah. So,
Love
but
those
it's
stories.
one the questions we should be asking ourselves before we do anything is,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
what's it going to cost me to ship it? What type of motor do I need? Is it going to get into that room in one piece or do I need it in pieces? Because
Are
that
you
determines a
ribs?
lot.
Are you using ribs? Because you might splice the headrail, but the
Can
rib.
can the ribs be spliced? Right. Right. Yeah, but I think it goes back to what's the biggest shade I want to make in my workroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, so yeah, talking about ribs, that's
Yeah.
another question on
Oh,
our
yeah.
list is, do you recommend using ribs or how do you use ribs? And that's not really a system question. This is
Well,
a system
sometimes it is.
discussion. Yeah.
Sometimes it is.
So let's tie it into systems. So what systems would perform better with the shade having ribs?
A top down, bottom up would need ribs.
Right.
It's whenever your side columns are moved further away from the edges. You know, you want to support the sides of your shade.
Okay.
So, I mean, I didn't really use a lot of ribs until I started to use the Vaco systems because a lot of those start further in. So you need rigid horizontal structure. So that would be, you know, Susan's buckram method that works as ribs.
Right.
And then
And that's what I used for my top down, bottom up shade was the
And then buckram with ribs or
Right.
rib sleeves or
with no
ribs.
pinholes of light with
Elke's
ribs.
method. I mean, there's
Right.
lots of methods for ribs. And I think on the top down, bottom up, it's 4.5 inches from the side. The column
That's with
five.
the crank rod, 4.5.
Oh, with the crank rod,
That's
it's
4
5.
the chain. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's times when you don't want so many columns of cord.
Yeah.
And
If your shade needs dressing, if it's a type of fabric that maybe
Mhm.
is really,
fussy.
yeah, fussy,
Yeah.
saggy, but beautiful.
Well, and I think it does depend on how you want it to look. And I've made without ribs, I've made with ribs, Elke's method. I've made with a back tuck with the rib inserted in there and not the rib falling forward in the fold, but the rib being what lifts. And I
Mhm,
made it with Susan's buckram method. And I like all three methods,
mhm.
but they're different methods for different types of shades.
Yeah.
And the one I have with no ribs is a almost an upholstery fabric. So it's really crisp and it folds easily and I don't have to dress it when it's mine.
Yeah.
So I was practicing. And the one with the back tucks is a sheer. And I
Yeah.
didn't want the folds forward. And I love how that turned out. And my brand new top down, bottom up shade has the buckram in it. And I love how that dresses. So
I
it's,
made shades for myself and I didn't put ribs in them. And I was like, what was I thinking? And it's messy. And now I got to go over there and dress it.
yeah.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's true. But that's why we experiment and try things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So ribs, they're great. And I like not having to put as many columns of cord on the back, no matter what the system is.
Right.
So if you can take more time to put ribs in, but then less time because you're sewing less cord shroud and rings and
Mhm.
Mhm.
etc. So it all comes out in the end. But you do have to, you're adding cost by using ribs, etc. It just goes on and on. So
Yeah.
we could go in the weeds on shade construction here.
But without getting into the weeds, and we'd probably love that because we'd
We
geek
live
out
in the
on
weeds.
it. But I think that this is why we should be educating ourselves in different methods. I
Mhm.
know that we've talked many times about I go to a class, I find out how somebody does something, I go, and in my early days, oh, that's how I'm going to do it now. And then
Right.
I would do it in my work and would go, oh, this really doesn't work for me, does it? But I would understand why it was working, and maybe there's another time that that method would work for me. But if we just learn one way and don't think about other options, then we really don't know what's best for our clients when we're making the shades. So I think it's important uh, to do samples once in a while. Make a small one, try it, see what
Well,
you
and
like about it.
it's custom work.
It's
Yes.
custom. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It's never been done before with fabric.
The next question is it okay to mount on the front of those tracks with Velcro? Will it hold up?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love mounting with Velcro.
That's if I almost always mount with Velcro, even if it's not on one of those tracks. Um, Putting Velcro on the front of a mount board, especially for inside mounted,
Hmm.
makes installation so much easier and makes
Yes.
adjusting easier on inside mount if you need to
Shimmy.
shimmy the shade a little bit to fill in the top gap.
Mhm.
Adding welt cord at the top, if you're doing inside mount and you have an old house and it might not be even, helps to
Right.
and then fill in the light gap.
Mhm.
I love Velcro mounting on top treatments, box pleated balances, on gathered balances. I just love doing that. And I've done it my whole career and nothing has ever fallen off.
Right.
Okay, that's good to know.
No, you're just holding the fabric. You're holding the shade itself. The operation is the system. The cords are bearing the weight.
Right.
So all it
I,
has to do is hold
Hold the
fabric.
top of the fabric.
right. And I think what you just said, Jennifer, is what most people don't realize. It's not holding the shade.
Mhm.
Right.
It's-
The strings or the system is
Yeah.
holding the shade.
Yeah.
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 So again, I had not used Velcro mounting until I did my new shade, and I really loved it. And I loved that I put the valance on of the top of my shade with the Velcro. And it was fast, easy, put it
Yeah.
up there and went, oh, that's not right.
Yeah.
Adjusted it. And there we were, all done.
I mean, we don't have a whole lot of straight windows.
I mean,
No.
with.
It freaks students out when I'm teaching a class and I just walk over and like rip the top of the shade off, not rip, but you know, just unzip it off of the Velcro and it's just hanging there on the cords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine how much easier that is to install than having to climb underneath your shade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my husband's bald, so I'm like, you've got the right hairstyle for this.
Exactly.
Shaves his head. But some of us don't.
No.
You know, you need like your shade installation hat or something. You're going to crawl underneath Roman shades and then you're hung up in the cords. You know, it's just horrible.
It's a mess.
So, yeah, you just undo the shade and let it drop and hang there on its cords, install, and then put it back up.
Until I saw someone installing with that, I was like, oh, that is brilliant. And I need to do more of that. Yeah, I look very disheveled after I've installed Roman shades. I do not have a good hairstyle for Roman shade installation.
And I wear glasses. I mean, it's just so
Yeah.
horrible. And top treatments too. If I can put a top treatment on hook and loop tape and board mount it, I will do that. And it's just it's so much easier.
It really is.
Okay.
And to walk into a house and put the boards up, and if it's a big window, it's a stack of boards and they're butted end to end. You know, you don't have to have a 12-foot board. You can have
Right.
6-foot boards.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting in the weeds.
Well, we did talking about some of these things, and we could really get into Velcro.
We sure could.
So I'm making a shade today. I'm going to put Velcro on the top and to be mounted onto the front of a track. So I'll take some photos or a little video today and put it on the blog with this podcast.
Oh, good. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So then the next question is, do you board mount headrail tracks or do you prefer to mount the track to the wall or the window and not board mount them? So we're back to those tracks again. So that would be Rolly Company Easy Rig, Forest Group RBS, Vaco 2004 or 2012, Rollies, Acmeda. What do they call theirs?
It's the SS. Is it SS38 or S38? I got it somewhere here.
SS something.
The parts are harder to get, so
yeah,
it's a limited supply. But yeah, SS38.
SS38. So all of those have a track,
and
a spool, Velcro on the front, and they project about one and a half with brackets and the fabric on the front. So if it's inside mounting, I'm doing it on the track. I'm not adding a board.
No, why spend extra money? Why go to the lumber store?
Well, it's so much easier to install.
Right.
They've got those inside mount brackets, those little round brackets. I love those.
And if you see a room with the track system mounted to the wall, it looks like it's hugging the wall.
Yeah, it's really
the profile.
Yeah.
You can make little covers for the end caps and do little returns.
I'm trying to think when I would board mount the track if I need it to come further away from, like I'm wall mounting, but it's a fat window trim.
Yeah.
Right.
The window trim is projecting out 1.5 inches or something, and I want to make sure the shade clears, and then I'll mount it on a board and put in returns on the boards.
Right.
The cord is coming from underneath in the center of that 1.5 inches.
Right.
So right.
An inch.
Yeah.
Where the cords are.
For top, if I have a board mounted top treatment, I would probably still mount it to the wall and put the top treatment above it, unless there was no room above the window.
And if it's reverse mounted.
Yeah, if it's reverse mounted outside mount, but if it's reverse mounted inside mount, I'd mount it both of them to the track. I'd mount it to the back of the track.
But the Velcro.
So yes, it's both are correct. But I know I because we get so many people coming through classes here, I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't have to use a board.
Yes. There have been a couple times I've surprised myself and I'm partway through the project and I go, oh, I really can just mount this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, we only used to use boards. That was it.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of got used to it.
That's probably the reason.
And a lot of people don't want to finish off the top with Velcro.
Yeah.
They want to staple it to a board.
Gotta get one of these yourselves and play with it and try it out, and then you'll feel more comfortable
I
with
just don't want to put my compressor on.
it. Well, there's that too. All right, so we mentioned reverse mount shades, and
Yeah.
I love doing them for a lot of different situations because you get them closer to in my part of the world, we do not have a lot of inside mount windows in older homes. Older. My house was built in the 70s, and that is now an older home.
Yeah, it's a
I,
vintage.
yeah, I have vintage.
1900s.
I like yeah, the 1900s. I like classic. The first time I heard mid-century, I'm like, oh wait, that's me. So out of all the windows in my house, we only have one window that's an inside mount, and it's because we added it after we got here. So a lot of things are being mounted on the wood frame, and they need to be a reverse mount so that we get, the proper coverage and all that. So where do you put the grommets for the cord? This always, I struggle with this a lot.
As far down as you can without it being below the valance. So you have the whole show.
I see you.
Or you make your valance after you put the hole in.
Yeah.
So just to back up for people that are new that are listening, with a reverse mount shade, the cords are coming from the back of the shade through to the front, and then the system is on the front.
Hmm.
And you would do that when you want to have the shade closer to the glass,
Right.
or closer to the wall. And so it depends, if you're doing a roller tube, that cord has to sort of travel left and right.
Yes.
It sort
got
of
some
traverses as it rotates around the roller tube. So you need to have the hole above the cord, but remembering if it's too close to the tube, it's not going to be able to go left and right.
Correct.
So my rule of thumb is about 6 inches. If I can do 6 inches below, and it might be 5 inches, but the more the better.
Well, and you're starting, you have all that room from where the tube is. The cord is coming to the bottom of the tube.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Put that grommet too high, that's like 3 inches, 3.5 inches.
Yeah.
So you have to put it below, it's almost next to the ring.
Yeah, it's close
Just a
to the
little bit
ring, the
above.
topmost ring. So think about your topmost ring, and then an inch or two above that, and then plan where your balance is going.
Right.
Yeah. And hang it up.
And hang it up.
Put it on a work stand.
And
look at it, yeah.
Remember, sometimes you're looking up and that valance looks long when you're looking straight at it, but when it's in the window, you're looking up into the system.
Right. Right.
You don't want to see that hole.
And also when you're planning reverse mounted shades, if you're doing a clutch and bead chain loop, where, think about installing the bead chain loop, the tension device going to be in front of the shade, which is good. Because if it's something like an inside mount and you didn't reverse mount it, now your bead chain loop is behind the shade.
Yes.
So if you're doing inside mount, that might be a deciding factor, is you're doing reverse mounted because it's inside mount. You don't want to reach behind the shade. Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about.
Cord shroud, I like to use the ladder tape on a reverse mount because it'll keep the shade flat. I mean,
Okay.
you have to do it once where you put a ring lock and then there's the molding there.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Bump
because it
down.
might brush against the ring locks projectile. They might brush
Yeah.
against the wall or
And the
window.
mullions.
Right.
Yeah, the window mullions.
So I have a question about the grommets. Do you always put grommets in, or do you ever put buttonholes?
I like
done
buttonholes.
I've done both.
Okay.
Because grommets, if it's thin, like we're going to talk about sheer shades in a minute, but for sheer, I've had one here on a work stand that I made for a custom workroom conference. I put grommets in the sheer, and one of the grommets has already popped out.
Okay.
So I'll probably do something else now that I have a grommet hole in there. I'll have to reinforce that area better. I did put buckram in there, but I need to put a fusible product on that between the layers on the sheer for the
Right.
grommet. I've done buttonholes because sometimes I don't want to get the grommet thing out, or the shade, for whatever reason. And I've never had any problems with buttonholes.
Mhm.
I have an old, Singer sewing machine that I put up on the work table and make buttonholes.
Right.
And but some people in the industry don't think buttonholes are professional or whatever. I don't know why,
Well,
but
you can't see it.
I
No,
think
and
it's nice.
I have had to replace cords because the grommets.
Oh, right.
So that's why I'm thinking I'm going to switch to buttonholes.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
And another thing about reverse mounted shades is mounting them. If you have a board mounted reverse mounted shade, you have to slit the fabric
To get
because
the L
to
bracket.
go on the L bracket.
Yes.
So if you're doing that, then a buttonhole, I mean,
Yeah. In the scheme of things.
then the
Yeah,
scheme
in the scheme of things, it's not really a big deal. Yeah.
a buttonhole looks just as nice. And I'm sitting here going, well, you could just like not even do a buttonhole.
Just slice.
Did I
Yeah,
say
you
that on the
could.
podcast? No, don't do that.
No.
But actually, and a buttonhole doesn't show as much light
Mhm.
Right.
as a grommet.
Because
And
it is just a straight,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Straight up and down.
But if you did your reverse mount on a track and spool system and used Velcro to mount it, then the L bracket will slip between the board and the head rail.
Yeah,
So you
so
don't have to slice.
Yes. Right.
or you mount on the track
Mhm.
and you put the hook strip on the back of the track, or you flip the track around so the hook strip is on the back,
Right.
and you don't have to use a board, so you don't have to make a slit in the fabric.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's something you might not think about until you go to install it. If you're not installing the work, you might not think of that.
Right.
Right. Right.
But your installer is slitting the
And not thinking about it all, just doing it and moving on.
He's got his razor blade.
That's right.
All right, Jennifer, what do you use for weight bars? That's our next
Oh.
question. Ceil, what do you use for weight bars?
I use whatever comes in the kit.
Well, nowadays,
no.
yes, whatever comes in the kit I order. I have used round metal bars that I have ordered in bulk through Elke Horn because she's not terribly far from me, and she orders so many that I just buy them off of her.
And she works for me.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Whoa.
And I have gone to Home Depot and looked for round metal bars that suit my need, that are weight enough, heavy enough. But they're usually dirty and they're usually disgusting, and it means I haven't thought ahead for what I needed and didn't have any more weight bars in my workroom. So true confessions of a Roman shade maker.
I mean, I have a metal fabricator near me.
Mhm.
And I bring scraps of all the metal things that I work with, just little pieces.
Mhm.
And they love it. They love looking through your stuff. They'll measure it and they'll weigh it, and then they'll say, all right, come with me and walk through the yard. And I end up getting stainless steel in different size bars,
Okay.
round or flat. And yeah, they might be dirty, but I just keep like Clorox wipes, or Lysol wipes nearby, and I can wipe them down and cover them in tape if I need.
Okay.
And just all different kinds of sizes. And I learned about a really cool place from Jonathan Bennett.
What is that?
He taught me about this website called metalsupermarkets.com. And you can, I know.
Oh, I'm writing that one down.
Yeah. And you can search and find if there's a local metal supermarkets near you or have it sent to you in the
Right.
mail.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the blog
Yeah.
too, so people have a click.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like 3/8 inch threaded rod for round weight, when I want round weight bars. Sometimes I want flat weight bars. And the threaded rod needs to be covered for a couple reasons. One is that it's threaded and it's hard, it snags.
Right.
And the other is, although I do get the coated threaded rod, I don't want it to rust or
Right.
so I'll either wrap it with white tape, 2-inch white tape, or cut a 2-inch strip of blackout lining and use Jules tape on and put Jules tape on each edge of the 2-inch strip and roll the rod in the blackout lining. And that's
Okay.
a really nice looking weight bar too.
Okay. Why the threaded? Why do you like that, Susan?
It's cheaper.
Okay. I love that idea.
And it wouldn't be cheap, that's buying at like a home
Mhm.
improvement store,
Right.
not going to a metal fabricator.
Yeah, that's the cheapest.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Okay.
you get 16-foot anything, but stainless steel
Yeah. Crazy.
and it doesn't rust.
Doesn't rust. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Stainless steel would be awesome.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't need a lot of weight.
Mhm.
So
Right.
and you're adding a weight bar is just to hold your hem straight. So something like a lightweight aluminum flat bar
Mhm.
would be
Or
fine.
even an acrylic rod that's a little bit thicker.
So I do order for sheer shades. I get clear acrylic rods from US Plastics.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going to a company like US Plastics, you're looking for rods. They don't sell ribs. The
Okay.
metal companies don't sell ribs. Rods. In air industry, they're called ribs. Because I had somebody say, I went on US Plastics and I can't find any ribs.
Except
like,
the UK. The UK
except the
calls
UK.
ribs rods.
Oh, okay.
That's one of those things like you could, oh yeah, they don't sell ribs.
No.
No, they don't. They sell rods.
My favorite was a workroom called the Bones.
Bones.
I love it. That's my favorite.
They are kind of like bones. They
Yeah.
make a skeleton in your
Yeah, there's a skeleton of the shade. I love that.
yeah, so that's so yeah, sometimes you don't need weight. Sometimes you do need weight, especially with clutch systems that you need that resistance.
Mhm.
And then with some of the manual systems, you need you need the weight to make the system
Mhm.
make the
Work
shade
properly. Yeah.
work properly.
Mhm.
Right.
So I know with the Centurion widget, she specifies what size weight bar you should put in the bottom.
Mhm.
Okay.
And was due fix.
Yeah. Yeah. So
They specify there.
you might want to check with the
Mhm.
your shade system to see what they recommend.
And we did help troubleshoot that one motorized shade. It was a sheer shade, but it was kind of stiff. And they used a tube shroud for the cord shroud. And there was a motorized system, and the weight didn't drop down.
Right.
Remember, they didn't have a heavy enough weight bar in
Okay.
it, and it raised the whole shade,
Together.
and it was folding more like an accordion. So the folds were all at the top
Oh, okay.
and not pulling up from the bottom.
Yeah.
So the cord shroud was also an
Yeah.
ingredient in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, that was when you receive a picture and someone says, "Why is my shade doing this?" And we were able to diagnose that.
Mhm. As a weight bar issue.
It was a weight bar
and a
issue.
shroud issue.
Yeah. Interesting. So as we're talking about sheer shades,
Mhm.
we're
Oh,
gonna segue into the next question is I'm making sheer shades. What should I know before I choose the shade lift system? Well, one thing is what's it going to look like?
Mhm.
A track is a little cleaner looking than a roller tube would be looking through
Mhm.
the top of the sheer shade. Something like a widget or bond where you could board mount would be more discreet.
Mhm. And you can even cover it.
Yeah, you
with
could
like a
even
little piece of lining.
But as far as choosing a lift system, I mean, you can use any lift system with sheer, with a lightweight shade.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the one thing that I get bothered with is if it's a tube system and it's sheer, I don't like seeing the shadow of the tube through.
I don't either. Yeah.
So you could make a privacy shield with, a piece of
But you see that through the
lining, but you
sheer
see that
too.
too.
Yeah.
You do.
So I like that where I like a headrail type system where it closes up tight at the top. Now if it's motorized and you have a battery hanging down, you might see the battery. So
Right.
you could get extension wires and move it off to the side, or mount it alongside if you have room instead of underneath the headrail.
Right.
I like adding at the top. I usually add buckram at the top of sheer shades because I'm Velcro mounting them.
Right.
And so that and on the hems and on the top,
Mhm.
I don't do a double fold. I do like a triple fold. I add more sheer
Okay.
so that you have more coverage. So you do that at the top and the bottom. So I'm allowing like 12 inches instead of 8 inches for folding over. And you might not use transparent buckram. If it's a white sheer, you might use white buckram at the
Right.
top, and that helps to hide the system. I think another thing with sheer shades is it's sewing on the rings, and
What kind of shroud
what
you're
kind of
using.
cord shroud you're using. And if it's not lined, you're sewing right to a delicate fabric, and it's going to pull on that.
Yeah.
Now the rings that are going up the shade are just guiding the cord, but still I've had some sheer where it makes it look
Tufted.
tough to, or a hole, like
Yeah.
you're
pulls.
pulling you're almost making a hole.
Yeah.
So you need to think about that. You might want to do rib pockets instead of sewing rings on. You might want to add a lining,
Mhm.
even another sheer as a lining, as long as it doesn't create a moire effect.
Right.
So think about that. And then the weight bar, that's where I've had trouble with sheer shades too. If you put a weight bar in the hem and your rings are lifting a heavy shade and your rings are just sewn to a thin sheer fabric.
Yes.
So you want to make sure you beef up your bottom hem and stitch to the bottom hem. Or I like to create a rod pocket at the bottom
Yes.
that the shade is lifting the weight bar. The weight bar is in the rod pocket. So you have a rod pocket above the hem, you're putting a weight bar in there. And so you have something substantial to stitch to, because otherwise the rings will just pull off.
Yeah.
Or
Pull the
make a
fabric,
run,
make a
or pull
hole.
the fabric, make a hole. It'll be awful. Yeah.
And I think sheer shades are beautiful, so I think they're worth the extra effort to make sure that it works properly.
Yeah. But yeah, it depends on the fabric too. So, but as far as the system, I think any system would be okay. Yeah. Just think ahead.
Yeah.
The next question is, what deductions do I take on the system for inside mounted shades?
Who's measuring?
Who's measuring? I don't know. They didn't put that in the question.
Always me. I do not depend on anyone else's measurements.
I just say if it's you or an installer measuring, then you can do a 1/4 inch. If it's the designer or a homeowner, I go bigger.
So bigger on the deduction.
Yeah,
Not on not the other
do
way.
it maybe up to a 1/2 inch. I mean, I like 3/8 of an inch, but yeah, if it's somebody not as experienced with measuring every day, I would do a bigger deduction. And it's not that much. If you hold it up in the window, can you see 1/8 of an inch?
I can't.
No.
No. And the shade system can be smaller than the shade.
Yes.
So whether it's board mounted or you're using Velcro, if your shade is hanging off each end a 1/4 inch, that adds a 1/2 inch, right? It's okay.
Yeah, make it bigger.
Make it bigger. Or make the shade fit if it's inside mounted, make the shade, to be inside mounted, but make your system smaller. And that way it'll fit.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's no doubt.
No doubt. If that's the one tip people take away from this, don't worry so much about getting a perfect inside mount size, because it doesn't have to be the same size as the shade.
Right.
And then let me check off the question, that one. What is the best cordless system? Jen, go.
Oh, no.
Wait, let me guess. It depends.
Correct. It depends. You know what? They're not easy. None of these cordless systems are easy. So when you're asking for the best, it's the best for your project. It might not be your favorite.
Mhm.
Um, the the one thing is each cordless system has its own set of guidelines that you have to follow,
Right.
right? You might you might have to use ribs. You might have to have a stiffener in the hem. You might have to have a center pull string. You know, these are all things you can't remove those or the shade won't operate well.
Correct.
You might have to have a heavy hem. You might have to have a lightweight hem. They're so different.
Yeah.
Um, I would say the biggest thing is to not remove the guidelines from your shape fabrication for a
Right.
successful outcome.
You have to follow
The rules.
the rules for that system
Yes.
provided by the manufacturer.
Mhm.
You have to adapt your fabrication methods to work with whatever system you
Yes.
choose.
Yeah.
You don't make a shade and then go, oh, I'm going to use a cordless. I mean, we say cordless right
There's
now.
a-
We're not talking about motorized. We're talking
The
about
manual hand
manual,
operated.
Right. Right.
yeah. Operating system, not there are lift cords on the back. Yeah, you have to follow the guidelines for that system, period. If you start straying away from that, you're going to have to troubleshoot.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it won't work right. I mean, it's
Might
really
not.
that simple. It's not meant to work the way you made your shade if you didn't make it for that system.
Like if your rings don't align with the columns, then you're creating friction. And
Mm-hmm.
friction makes a system think it's a heavier shade.
Okay.
So you just messed with the weight.
Yeah.
So already it's not happy.
Right. And if you're going to have to, and there's some systems where you have to pull down to
Mhm.
engage the spring.
Right.
So
Like a
you have
tug,
to remember that.
a tug to
Yeah,
engage.
you have to tug
Mhm.
down to engage. So you either have to have a pull ring or you have to allow extra at the bottom.
Mhm.
Or I've started using sort of a pull hem bar that goes all the
Okay.
way across that you pull down to engage the spring, but you have to be able to pull down. If you put too many rotations of cord around the roller tube, your customer is going to pull that ring or that pull bar or whatever, and it'll be swinging below the shade.
Which is a cord
Yeah.
safety
And then you've
hazard.
got a cord safety hazard and it looks ugly hazard. And they will not be able to operate the shade because now all the cord is pulled off the roller and you don't have any room to
Yes.
engage the spring.
Yes.
All of those things have to be thought about. On the other types of spring systems,
Mhm.
what did you say? You are the motor.
There is no power.
There's no power.
When you have
Yeah.
a tape spring, there's no power. You're the power. You're the motor.
You don't engage it by pulling down on it. You just lift it up with your hand and you pull it down with
So
your
you have
hand.
Right.
the perfect counterbalance so that the weight can hold the shade up and it can keep it down. So I only like those type of cordless for very small, lightweight shades.
Yeah. If you have to use two hands to lift it, like it's so wide, you can't just push up in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't appeal to me. That's
No.
not the system for that.
It's not as
Okay.
often for a blackout in aligned heavy
Wide
shade.
shade. Yeah.
Okay.
You might want to make two shades on that window if you want to use that type of
Or
system.
you choose a cordless that has a tool, like a twin pull
Mhm.
or a crank rod.
Okay.
I mean, I will say if you want the most, in my opinion, the most reliable cordless with your customer is not going to abuse it and screw it up would be a hand crank.
Yeah.
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 There's so little that can get messed up with that, and you're just cranking it up and
And the
down. And it's
best is-
quiet and it's easy.
Right.
You don't have to do anything special when you fabricate your shade.
Yeah.
So you can make your shade your way. 'Cause you don't
Yes.
worry about weight.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I feel like as far as educating a customer, that the hand crank is a really easy thing to use. And I was specking some hard treatments for a client recently, and it's in a household where I know that it's going to get some abuse. So I am recommending this particular brand has a little hanging wand with an
Mhm.
up and down on it
Yeah.
because I could just see this person yanking away and pulling it right off. And like, I want them to touch it as little as possible.
What, and Susan mentioned this morning when we were talking about this. She takes a little video for her designers to
Yeah, if
show.
the homeowners isn't there, take a video with your phone or your iPad showing how to operate the shade.
Absolutely.
Even for ones with remote controls
Mhm.
and how to charge them,
Yes.
or make a something to put with the charger cords. Because they'll need to remember, they won't find that video. I make a sheet and it has step-by-step photos where the charger, how you hook it in, what
Yes.
color the light should be when it's charged and when it's ready and
Right.
when it needs to be charged. How to replace the batteries in the remote.
Mhm.
This isn't all intuitive to homeowners.
No, it's not. And I recently, we all have our methods of doing things, and including a small video is what I normally do, except I installed something for a friend of mine.
Oh,
It didn't follow my policies and procedures.
what could go wrong?
Okay, right. I have a workroom friend who installed a top down, bottom up, beautiful job with hand crank in their home. And she got it installed just in time for their party. And her husband went in and didn't know how to use it and pulled on it,
Yikes.
try to get it to go up or down or top
Yeah.
down, or whatever. And he pulled the cords out because he pulled so aggressively because he couldn't get it to work.
Oh, no.
Didn't know you needed a hand crank. So she had to safety pin it up in place for her party. so, her, so her guest could have some privacy in the bathroom when they live in there. But and if you're listening, you know who you are. But you have to educate the people in the home. I mean,
Yes.
your guests.
Yes.
Like if you put something like that in your guest room,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Your
it's
guest needs to know how to operate it.
yes,
Mhm.
something like a hand crank is new to people.
Yeah. But it's really simple. That's the thing. Like you said, just do a little video and then they have it. And once you do it twice, you know what you're doing. You don't need the video again, but
You
it's
get to
still
do the hand
Oh,
crank
it's a
dance.
dance.
So cool.
And you only have one chance to video your husband doing it. So I highly recommend videotaping that.
Yes, let's all do that. Fortunately, my husband already knows how to do
I know,
that.
so he can't play
All
that
right,
game.
we're running out of time here. Let's go to tension devices. I had a question about that because there are new tension devices that are out because of the changes in the cord safety standards that will affect
In 2024.
in 2024, in June of 2024. So the companies that have the tension devices, you can get them from Rolly Company, Coolise, and Rolly's Acmeda has 2 that are compliant.
Okay.
And you need to check to make sure they're compliant with the cord safety standard that's dated 2022. So you should see that in the catalog or their online ordering.
Mhm.
And I've done a video for how to install the Rolly Company, the new one, and how to install the new one from Coolise. And I don't have the Rolly's Acmeda ones yet.
Okay.
But if I get my hands on those, I'll do videos of those
Mhm.
because the installation is a little different. But
Okay.
we have old ones from Rolly Company. The new tension device will have a -B,
Revision B.
revision B
Okay.
on the package. And what it does, it prevents, you can't take it apart after it's put onto the B chain loop.
Mhm. It has like a little
It has
top
a
Lego
little
piece.
Yeah, it has a little piece you have to squeeze in with needle nose pliers.
Okay.
That prevents the homeowner from being able to take the tension device off.
Okay.
So I'll put links to the videos that I have on the blog.
Okay, great. And I think our listeners know that I always put a link to your blog in the show notes of the podcast so that the blog's easy to find.
Awesome. And then another question, is it better to order assembled or should I just assemble myself?
Well, it depends how much time you have, or if you have to pay somebody to cut down and assemble your systems. I mean, I tell people fairly often, you might save money having someone like me assemble your system.
Mhm. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're in a rush and you want to get the order sooner, probably unassembled would come faster. You think? No?
I guess it depends on where you're ordering from.
Yeah.
Everywhere is different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would think, a company has to stop and assemble something. It's
Mhm.
takes longer than just putting stuff in a box and
For,
shipping
for
it.
me, no, it
Okay.
actually takes longer to do unassembled.
So I love assembled. That's what I want all the time from anybody I'm ordering from. I want assembled.
I have to take all the little pieces and put them in something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And then, kind of explain how things go.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends on
really
each supplier, because
complicate it.
some suppliers have everything like in little
Yeah.
plastic bags,
Mm.
right? They could just grab the plastic bag with this. But you're not like that.
No, I'm an educator. So I think about what happens when you open the bag.
Yes. So I do know of workrooms, especially some near me, where they make their own headrail systems
Yeah.
because they make so many.
Right.
And if they get an order on a Monday for a shade, they have the parts, they can make it and have it done in 2 days. And that suits
Got
them.
room. They have
Yeah.
the saw, they have
Yeah.
the,
I do not want to do any of those things. I want it in a nice little box and I want it all done and ready for me to mount. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have extra parts. So, like if you ordered it with 4 spools and then you're like, oh, I need 5 spools. It's nice to have some extra parts.
That's absolutely true.
You should learn how to assemble them
Mhm.
in case you have to troubleshoot or add
Yes.
another cord spool. All the companies have good videos to
Mhm.
help you with that. I would order top down, bottom up assembled for
Mhm.
sure.
I
Yeah.
did.
Lots of little parts.
Yeah, lots of
Yes.
little parts. And having it, if you don't want to stock tubes, because think of the waste,
Mhm.
when you're cutting tubes. If you don't want to stock and cut metal and cut head rails and
Yeah.
And
all
if
of
you
that,
don't have the space in your workroom,
just
Yeah.
order them and
Yeah.
an area dedicated just to that cutting process. Yeah.
Or,
Agreed.
you have to take it outside to cut it, and you
Yeah.
have to wait till it's a nice sunny day and it's not raining.
Yeah. So it depends. The larger commercial workrooms, of course, would benefit.
Mhm.
They have an employee that probably just does all that all day.
Right.
A lot of people look at it, assembling, they can save money. But I'll tell people, even if you're assembling, use the assembled price list for your quotes.
Yeah.
Because you're either paying someone like me to assemble it, or you're
Or
gonna
it's your
pay
time.
yourself
Yeah.
to assemble it.
Yes.
Your
But
time.
still just use the assembled pricing for quotes.
That's a really good point, Jennifer. I don't think I had thought about that. And again, I just go to that because that's what I'm getting is assembled.
Well, you're saving money, but you're paying yourself.
Yes.
You get paid.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we do need to get paid.
And the other option, which Jennifer does, and some other suppliers might as well, is I will order my metal cut to the sizes I need, but everything else I'll assemble myself.
Okay.
So it's cut to size. Just
Okay.
The weight bar, the drive rod, the track, and then she'll send the brackets and spools and stuff, and I'll
Okay.
assemble that part.
And I charge a lot to cut your ribs. I don't like it either.
But again, to me, that's
Well,
totally worth it.
It can be provided.
Yeah, fiberglass is no fun.
No, it is not.
All right. So the last question, and this is a whole another podcast, is motorization. There are so many questions. I don't even know where to start with that.
Yeah, that needs its own separate podcast. There's too much information. And motorization is fantastic. It's really a wonderful upgrade to our
It's what people are
money-making-
asking for.
Yes.
But
Yes.
technology, it's like getting a computer. So
Yes.
you might have done something a year ago, but it could have changed.
Yeah.
Like when we do our classes, our Shade Smart or our Workroom Cadre class, every time I do the spreadsheet, that's when I'm updating. I'm
Yes.
updating the motors. It's changed. How the power supplies have changed. Little tiny chords have changed.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's like when you have a cell phone and you just love it, but it's time to update your cell phone and you
Yeah.
can't get that old cell phone anymore. You're forced to get a new phone with
Yeah.
all new technology. And it's the same. So if you made shades 2 years ago and your customer loves them, and they love the system and they
Mhm.
It's going to be a whole new
and
one.
you'll get something similar, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have to get something new.
So
Yeah.
talk to your old supplier,
Yeah.
who you got that from 2 years ago, and they
Yeah.
might have access to that same motor.
Yeah. Or they can say, well, this is what's most like what you used 2 years
Mhm.
ago. Or this
Well,
is better.
yeah.
This is gonna be even better, but then you're
Right.
putting something quieter and nicer in their home. They're like, okay, these old motors are noisy.
But I do think this is a perfect example, Susan. We've done a couple of podcasts about like choosing vendors to work
Mhm.
with because you have a relationship with them and you can call them and say, okay, this is what I'm doing in a home where I used XYZ model. And they say, oh, wait till you see ABC model. Oh, they're going to be mad. These are quieter. Here's what because they know you and because you deal with them all the time. And if you're somebody like me, when I call a certain person I buy hardware from, I say, hi, Glenn, it's me. He goes, okay, what do we have questions about today? So he knows I need to be walked through it and we're all okay with that. But
You
if
don't
you
have to be
don't
the
have a
expert.
relationship, then you're going to struggle to figure out what's best.
Absolutely.
Exactly what Jen just said. You don't have to be the expert.
Yes.
And your installer might be the resource for that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And they might have a drapery or Roman shade systems that they prefer
Yeah.
for whatever reason. And there's also whole house automation and all of these things. So when you're pre-qualifying someone and they're like, we'd like motorized shades, well, don't just assume it's going to be a battery
Mhm.
Right.
system. They might want to integrate this into a new build.
Mhm.
So you have to learn, and
Yes.
it takes a
Mhm.
lot of learning, and maybe somebody else has already learned it for you.
I was going to say if that's the answer, they have whole house integration. There are a lot of people who do that, and you
Yeah.
partner with them and allow their expertise to guide you so that you don't
Yes.
make any mistakes.
Because
Let
they're
them
not
make
making
money.
shades.
Yeah,
They're not making shades.
let them do what they do best. Let them make a good
Mhm.
living at selling motorization and consulting with you. And
Yep.
you make a good living off selling the shades with the motorization,
Mhm.
and everybody wins.
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, so that's the motorization really is such a broad topic.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, you need to go to the experts for that.
Yep.
And final tips. Do we have any final tips?
Oh, well, we've covered a lot, but
Yeah.
know your system before you make your shade.
I think that's the most important takeaway from today. If you don't know what you're going to be using as a system, you should not be fabricating already.
Mhm.
Yeah. Especially putting the cords on the back.
Yes. Yes.
Work smarter, not harder.
Because you might be able to, add a weight bar or something, but once you sew those cords, especially if it's black outlined, you don't want to
Mm.
back up on that one.
Right.
So know your system before you make your shade. I think, and then one benefit of people taking classes is they get samples. So
Yes.
buy a sample.
Mhm. They're often priced
I know,
low.
like Rolly Company sells sample kits.
Mhm.
Right.
You can contact Jennifer. She'll put together a sample kit for you. If you've never used a bond or widget, buy one. It's not a huge investment.
Right.
No.
Make a small
Shade,
shade. Yep.
what works. That's a great thing to do with our classes, is let that be your sample making and learning process. Yes, it takes time, but you don't want to practice on your customer's project.
No.
Right.
No.
Um, and it's going to take extra time to learn a new system.
So don't start it on Friday for a Monday installation.
Why not?
Why not?
I do think that, and I've admitted freely that there are many times where I don't try new things and I start in on a project and go, oh, there's a lot of good reasons for practicing first.
Mhm.
But it does become muscle memory. And then if you do make a mistake on something you're just trying for a sample, there's no disaster. There's no, oh my God, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and the install's tomorrow. You
Yeah.
go, okay, this didn't work. Now I know why. Now I know I don't want to wait till the last minute or why this is the right system for what I'm trying to do. I just didn't fabricate it the right way.
Right.
So,
And if you know more than one system, you're prepared if something's out of stock,
mhm,
if a company discontinues something and you're not able to buy it anymore.
right.
You know, you've got to be able to flex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's in your best interest to do that. And I think the last note we have here is just because you can doesn't mean you should. So, so just because you can push those limits, or just because you saw on Facebook that somebody else made a shade like this and used this system and they made it work, doesn't mean you should,
Mhm.
right?
That's my life motto, my fashion motto. Because you can doesn't mean you should.
I like that for fashion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially as I get older. Just because I can doesn't mean I should.
That's because you can wear hot pants.
But with so many people in our industry who are experts at different things,
Yeah.
it is so smart to take a look at your workroom and say, I don't think I want to make that in my workroom. However, I know so and they do that and they do it beautifully. And I can make money and they can make money.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Win-win. Yeah.
I mean, I have a list of people who can make cordless shades of workrooms, and
Yeah.
I'll connect them with other workrooms that just don't want to fabricate them anymore.
Yeah.
So those are options.
I'm startled sometimes when I'm talking with somebody. They go, "Oh yeah, I'm not making panels anymore. I don't make them fast enough. I sub them to so and so who lives around the corner from me." I'm like, "Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant." So, I think it's the thing to think about. Do I want to make this in my workroom or do I want to allow someone who does it faster, better, and happily and have them do it? Just like I know I want my shade systems coming assembled.
Yeah, and there's so many options, and there's new technology, there's new systems, I'm sure, coming out in the future. You know, there's R&D constantly at the large manufacturers. So, you know, we might update, you know, next year we might have new systems. So
Right.
Or new methods.
yeah, new methods. So
Everything.
yeah, it's
A
fun.
good reason to keep yourself informed and educated and listening to the podcast so you can
And,
know
you
what's
know,
new.
and just make stationary shades, no systems. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you, Ceil. It's
Thank
fun.
Thank
you.
you both so much. It was
Jennifer.
good to see you.
Thank you,
All right,
Ceil.
bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for joining Susan, Jennifer, and I to talk about shade systems today. Hope you got a lot out of it. And if you need some more information, you can go to workroomtech.com. And Susan has a blog link at the top of the page. I'll also put a link directly to the blog and podcast in today's show notes. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great day.